You know, I've always believed that the moment you decide to be extraordinary is the moment your life begins to change. Today, I want to talk to you about something that can revolutionize your life, your career, and your relationships. It's a simple idea, but don't let its simplicity fool you. It's powerful enough to transform everything. Here it is. Act as if you are the best. No one is better than you. Now, I can already hear some of you thinking, but that sounds arrogant. Or isn't that just faking it? Let me tell you something. This isn't about arrogance. It's not about putting others down. It's about lifting yourself up to your full potential. When I say act as if you are the best, I'm talking about adopting the mindset, the habits, and the actions of someone who is at the top of their game. I'm talking about setting a standard for yourself that's so high it pulls you up by its very nature. Have you ever watched a great athlete perform? Or seen a master craftsman at work? There's a certain confidence, a certain poise that they carry. It's not arrogance. It's certainty. It's the knowledge that they've put in the work. They've honed their skills, and they're ready to perform at the highest level. That's what I'm talking about when I say act as if you are the best. It's about carrying yourself with that same certainty, that same poise, in everything you do. Now, some of you might be thinking, but I'm not the best. I'm not even close. And to that I say, so what? The beauty of this principle is that it works even if you're not the best yet. When you act as if you're the best, something magical happens. You start to believe it. And when you believe it, you start to become it. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy of the most powerful kind. Imagine you're in a job interview. You're nervous. You're doubting yourself. You're wondering if you're good enough. Now, how do you think that interview is going to go? But what if you walked into that interview acting as if you were the best candidate they could possibly hire? What if you carried yourself with confidence, spoke with certainty about your skills and experiences, and truly believed that you were the solution to their problems? Do you think that might change the outcome? You bet it would. And here's the kicker. Even if you don't get that particular job, acting as if you're the best will have changed you. You will have practiced confidence. You will have articulated your skills powerfully. You will have raised your own standards. And all of that will serve you well in the next opportunity. But let's be clear. Acting as if you're the best doesn't mean you stop learning or growing. In fact, it's quite the opposite. The truly best people in any field are always learning, always improving. They're hungry for knowledge, eager for new challenges. So when you act as if you're the best, you're also committing to continuous improvement. You're saying, I'm going to carry myself like the best, and I'm going to do the work to become the best. This principle applies to every area of your life. In your relationships, act as if you're the best partner, the best friend, the best parent. In your health and fitness, act as if you're in the best shape of your life. In your finances, act as if you're the best at managing money. Now, some of you are thinking, but isn't this just pretending? Isn't it fake? And to that I say, at first, maybe it is. But here's the thing about human beings. We are incredibly adaptable creatures. We become what we consistently do. If you consistently act confident, you become confident. If you consistently make healthy choices, you become healthy. It's not pretending. It's practicing. It's rehearsing for the role you want to play in your own life. And let me tell you something else. The world responds to how you act. When you carry yourself as if you're the best, people treat you differently. Opportunities open up. Doors that were closed suddenly become ajar. You see, most of us have a little voice in our head that says, "You're not good enough. You can't do that. Who do you think you are?" And that voice, my friends, is a liar. It's a liar that's been programmed by years of self-doubt, by well-meaning but misguided advice, by setbacks and failures we've misinterpreted. When you act as if you're the best, you're reprogramming that voice. You're telling it, actually, I am good enough. I can do that. I am someone who achieves great things. And here's the beautiful part. As you start to act this way, as you carry yourself with this confidence and certainty, you'll find that it becomes easier and more natural. What started as an act becomes your reality. This is your invitation to step into the most powerful version of yourself. This is your chance to stop playing small, to stop doubting, to stop waiting for permission. The permission you're waiting for, you need to give it to yourself. So I challenge you, starting today, to act as if you are the best. Act as if no one is better than you. Not out of arrogance, but out of a deep belief in your own potential and worth. Think about this. You've been given a gift. The gift of life, of consciousness, of potential. And every day you don't use that gift to its fullest is a day wasted. Not in a harsh, judgmental way, but in a very real sense. You're not honoring the gift you've been given. When you act as if you're the best, you're saying, I recognize the gift I've been given, and I'm going to use it fully. I'm going to see how far I can go, how much I can achieve, how many people I can help. There's a famous quote, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. When you act as if you're the best, you're confronting that fear. You're stepping into your power. And here's something beautiful. When you step into your power, you give others permission to do the same. Your excellence doesn't diminish others. It elevates them. It shows them what's possible. It inspires them to reach higher. So this isn't just about you. This is about everyone whose life you touch. Every person you interact with. Every project you work on. Every goal you pursue. You're setting an example. You're creating a ripple effect. The world doesn't need more people playing small. The world needs people who are willing to step up, to be excellent, to act as if they're the best, and then do the work to become it. That person can be you. That person should be you. That person, starting today, is you. Chapter 1, The Mindset Shift. Let's talk about something fundamental, your mindset. Your mindset is like the operating system of your life. It determines how you interpret events, how you respond to challenges, how you approach opportunities. And just like you can upgrade the operating system on your computer, you can upgrade your mindset. When you act as if you're the best, you're installing a new operating system. You're upgrading your mindset to one of abundance, possibility, and growth. You start to see opportunities where others see obstacles. You start to find solutions where others see only problems. Think about two people facing the same challenge. One person sees it as an insurmountable wall. The other sees it as a puzzle to be solved, an adventure to be undertaken. What's the difference between them? Their mindset. The person who acts as if they're the best approaches challenges with curiosity and confidence. They think, this is interesting. How can I solve this? What resources do I need? They're not intimidated by the challenge. They're energized by it. Now, this mindset shift doesn't happen overnight. It's not like flipping a switch. It's more like exercising a muscle. The more you practice acting as if you're the best, the stronger that muscle becomes. Start paying attention to your internal dialogue. Notice when that negative voice pipes up, when it says, you can't do this. Counter it with, how can I do this? When it says, you're not good enough, respond with, I'm becoming better every day. This isn't about lying to yourself. It's about challenging the lies you've been telling yourself. Because that's what those negative thoughts are. Lies based on fear, doubt, and past experiences that no longer serve you. Here's what I've noticed about people who consistently perform at high levels. They have an unshakable belief in their ability to figure things out. They might not know how to solve every problem they encounter, but they trust that they can learn, adapt, and find a way. When you act as if you're the best, You're training your brain to look for evidence that supports this belief. And here's the fascinating thing about the human brain. It finds what it looks for. If you're looking for reasons why you can't succeed, you'll find them. But if you're looking for reasons why you can succeed, you'll find those too. Let me give you a practical exercise. For the next week, keep a success journal. Every evening, write down 3 things you did well that day. They don't have to be big things. Maybe you handled a difficult conversation with grace. Maybe you stuck to your workout plan. Maybe you chose a healthy meal when you were tempted by junk food. What you're doing is training your brain to notice your successes, to acknowledge your progress, to recognize your capability. You're gathering evidence that you are, in fact, excellent at many things. And as that evidence accumulates, it becomes easier and more natural to act as if you're the best. Another crucial aspect of this mindset shift is how you frame your experiences. When something doesn't go as planned, instead of thinking I failed, try thinking I learned. Because that's closer to the truth. Every setback is feedback. Every mistake is a lesson. Every challenge is an opportunity to grow. This mindset shift also changes how you view other people's success. Instead of feeling threatened or jealous when someone else achieves something great, you feel inspired. You think, if they can do it, I can too. You see their success as evidence of what's possible, not as a limitation on your own potential. Here's something else about this mindset shift. It affects your energy levels. When you're constantly doubting yourself, constantly worrying about whether you're good enough, it's exhausting. But when you act as if you're the best, when you have confidence in your abilities and trust in your capacity to handle whatever comes your way, you free up enormous amounts of energy. Let me be clear about something though. Acting as if you're the best doesn't mean being delusional. It doesn't mean ignoring your weaknesses or pretending you're perfect. The truly great people in any field are acutely aware of their shortcomings, but they don't let those shortcomings define them or limit them. This mindset shift is about changing your relationship with yourself. Instead of being your own worst critic, you become your own best coach. You push yourself, yes, but you also encourage yourself. You acknowledge your mistakes, but you also celebrate your victories. Chapter 2. Confidence without arrogance. Now, let's address something crucial. The difference between confidence and arrogance. Because there's a difference, and it's essential that you understand it. Confidence is quiet. It doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't need to put others down to build itself up. Confidence comes from a deep, internal knowing of your own worth and capability. Arrogance, on the other hand, is loud. It's insecure dressed up as certainty. It needs constant validation from others. It puts people down to feel superior. Arrogance is actually a form of overcompensation for internal doubt. When I tell you to act as if you're the best, I'm talking about confidence, not arrogance. I'm talking about carrying yourself with the quiet certainty that comes from knowing you've prepared, you've worked hard, and you're capable of handling whatever comes your way. Think about the most impressive people you've met in your life, the ones who really inspired you. Chances are, they weren't the ones who constantly bragged about their achievements or put others down. They were the ones who carried themselves with grace, who were secure enough in their own abilities that they could freely acknowledge and celebrate the abilities of others. Here's a key distinction. Confidence is about believing in yourself. Arrogance is about needing others to believe you're better than them. Can you see the difference? One is internally focused. The other is externally focused. One is secure. The other is insecure. When you act as if you're the best, you're not doing it to impress anyone else. You're not doing it to make others feel small. You're doing it to rise to your full potential, to give your best, to be the most effective version of yourself. So how do you cultivate confidence without tipping into arrogance? Here's some guidelines. First, Let your actions speak louder than your words. Instead of telling people how great you are, show them through your work, your consistency, your results. The best people in any field rarely need to talk about how good they are. Their work does the talking for them. Second, stay curious and open to learning. The moment you think you know everything, you've crossed the line into arrogance. True masters in any field are perpetual students. They're always looking for ways to improve, always open to new ideas. Third, celebrate others' successes as genuinely as you celebrate your own. When a colleague achieves something great, be the first to congratulate them. When someone offers a good idea, give them credit. This doesn't diminish your own achievements. In fact, it enhances them. Fourth, be honest about your mistakes and failures. Arrogant people can't admit when they're wrong. Confident people can own their mistakes, learn from them, and move forward. This vulnerability actually strengthens your confidence. Fifth, ask questions and seek input from others. Arrogant people think they have all the answers. Confident people know that the best solutions often come from collaboration and diverse perspectives. There's also an important connection between confidence and humility that many people miss. Real humility isn't about thinking less of yourself. It's about thinking of yourself less. It's about being so secure in who you are that you don't need to constantly prove yourself or compare yourself to others. When you act as if you're the best, you're cultivating this kind of humility. You're so focused on doing your best work, on growing and improving, on serving others, that you don't have time or energy for ego games. This is the sweet spot. This is where true power lives. In the intersection of confidence and humility, where you know your worth, but you're not obsessed with proving it to others. Chapter 3, the self-fulfilling prophecy. Let's talk about one of the most powerful psychological phenomena, the self-fulfilling prophecy. This is the idea that your beliefs about yourself and your situation actually influence the outcome. If you believe you're going to fail, you're more likely to fail. Not because of some mystical force, but because your belief affects your behavior. You might not prepare as thoroughly. You might not try as hard. You might give up more easily. But the reverse is also true. If you believe you're going to succeed, if you act as if you're the best, you're more likely to succeed. You prepare better. You try harder. You persist longer. Your belief becomes a reality. This isn't just feel-good psychology. This has been demonstrated in countless studies across many different domains. Athletes who visualize success perform better. Students who believe they're capable learn more effectively. People who approach challenges with confidence get better outcomes. Why? Because your beliefs shape your actions, and your actions shape your results. When you act as if you're the best, you're setting in motion a powerful chain of events. First, you change your behavior. You prepare more thoroughly. You show up more confidently. You speak more assertively. You take more calculated risks. These behavioral changes then affect how others perceive and respond to you. They take you more seriously. They give you more opportunities. They're more willing to follow your lead, to trust your judgment, to invest in your ideas. And as you get these results, as you experience these successes, your belief in yourself becomes even stronger. It's no longer just acting. It becomes genuine confidence based on real evidence. Let me give you a concrete example. Imagine two people applying for a promotion. They have similar qualifications and experience, but one approaches it thinking, I probably won't get this, but I'll try anyway. The other thinks, I am the best person for this role. In the interview, the first person is hesitant, apologetic, focuses on their weaknesses. The second person is confident, enthusiastic, focuses on their strengths and what they can contribute. Who do you think is more likely to get the promotion? And it's not just about the interview performance. It's also about all the actions leading up to it. The second person, acting as if they're the best, probably prepared extensively, sought out relevant experiences, and built relationships with key decision makers. See how the beliefs shape the actions, and the actions shape the outcome. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. This self-fulfilling prophecy doesn't just work on an individual level. It works on a social level too. When you act as if you're the best, people around you start to believe it. And their belief in you reinforces your belief in yourself, creating a powerful positive feedback loop. But here's the critical thing. This only works if your actions back up your beliefs. You can't just believe you're the best without doing the work. That's delusion, not a self-fulfilling prophecy. The key is to act as if you're the best, which means doing what the best would do. The best would prepare thoroughly. The best would practice diligently. The best would seek feedback and learn from mistakes. The best would show up consistently. So when you act as if you're the best, you're committing to those behaviors. And those behaviors create results. And those results reinforce your belief. That's how the prophecy fulfills itself. Here's a practical application. Start treating yourself like someone who is the best in their field. How would the best in your field take care of their health? Probably pretty well. They'd prioritize sleep, nutrition, exercise, because they know their body is the foundation for their performance. How would the best in your field manage their time? Probably very deliberately. They'd be intentional about their priorities, ruthless about eliminating distractions, focused on high-impact activities. When you start doing these things, when you start treating yourself as if you're the best, something shifts. You start to see yourself differently. And when you see yourself differently, others see you differently too. This is the power of the self-fulfilling prophecy. Your beliefs about yourself literally shape your reality. So why not choose beliefs that serve you? Why not act as if you're the best and set that powerful cycle in motion? Let me share some powerful research on this. In a famous study, researchers told teachers that certain students were intellectual bloomers who would show significant improvement. In reality, these students were randomly selected, but by the end of the year, these students did show significant improvement. Why? Because the teacher's expectations changed their behavior toward those students. This is called the Pygmalion effect, and it works on yourself too. When you expect excellence from yourself, you unconsciously change your behavior to match that expectation. There's also the concept of acting as if in psychology. Therapists sometimes tell people with depression to act as if they're not depressed. Smile, even if you don't feel like it. Stand up straight. Speak with energy. And something remarkable happens. The feelings often follow the actions. This isn't about denying reality or toxic positivity. It's about understanding that action can change emotion, and emotion can change belief, and belief can change reality. Here's another powerful example, the placebo effect. People given sugar pills sometimes experience real improvements in their condition simply because they believe the pills will help them. Your beliefs have measurable physical effects on your body. Now imagine channeling that power deliberately. When you act as if you're the best, you're essentially giving yourself a powerful belief pill that changes your biochemistry, your behavior, your energy, and ultimately your results. The key is consistency. One day of acting as if you're the best won't transform your life. But 100 days? 365 days? That creates momentum. That creates identity shift. That creates genuine transformation. Here's a challenge. For the next 30 days, act as if you are already the person you want to become. Not in a delusional way, but in your actions, your habits, your standards. See what happens. I'm betting you'll be amazed at the transformation. Chapter 4. The Language of Excellence. Let's talk about something that might seem small but has enormous impact. The language you use, both when talking to yourself and when talking to others. When you act as if you're the best, you need to speak like it too. Language is more than just communication. It shapes how you think, how you feel, and how you act. The words you choose literally create your experience of reality. Think about the difference between these statements. I'll try to do it versus I will do it. One expresses doubt and hesitation. The other expresses commitment and certainty. Or consider, I hope this works out versus I know this will work out. Again, one expresses uncertainty. The other expresses confidence. And that difference in language reflects and reinforces a difference in mindset. When you act as if you're the best, you need to eliminate doubt and hesitation from your language. Not because you're being dishonest, but because language shapes belief, and belief shapes action, and action shapes results. Let me give you some specific examples of language shifts. Instead of I'll try, say I will. The word try gives you an out. I will is a commitment. Instead of I can't, ask how can I. The first closes down possibilities. The second opens them up. Instead of I'm not good at this, say I'm still learning this, or I'm getting better at this. The first is a fixed statement. The second acknowledges growth. Instead of this is too hard, say this is challenging and I'm up for it. The first suggests defeat. The second suggests engagement. Instead of I hope, say I expect, or I'm confident that. Hope is passive. Expectation and confidence are active. These might seem like small changes, but they add up. Every time you speak, you're reinforcing a certain identity, a certain set of beliefs about yourself. Make sure that language is reinforcing the identity of someone who is the best at what they do. Now, this doesn't just apply to how you talk to yourself. It also applies to how you talk to others. When you act as if you're the best, you speak with authority and certainty. This doesn't mean being overbearing or dismissing others' input. It means expressing your ideas clearly and confidently. It means speaking as if your opinion matters. Because it does. Pay attention to qualifiers in your speech. Words like just, maybe, sort of, kind of, I think, perhaps. These words undermine your authority and confidence. Compare these two statements. I just wanted to share an idea I had. Maybe we could sort of consider doing something different. Versus, I have an idea I'd like to share. We should consider a different approach. Here's why it will work. The second statement is clear, direct, confident. That's how people who are the best in their field speak. Let's talk about another aspect of language. How you describe challenges and setbacks. When you act as if you're the best, you don't describe problems as insurmountable obstacles. You describe them as challenges to overcome, as puzzles to solve. Instead of this is a huge problem, try this as a significant challenge that we can solve. Same situation, different framing. One feels overwhelming, the other feels manageable. The language you use to describe your experiences actually changes how you remember and learn from those experiences. If you consistently describe setbacks as failures, you'll feel like a failure. If you consistently describe them as learning experiences, you'll feel like someone who's constantly improving. Here's another important aspect: how you talk about others. When you act as if you're the best, you don't need to put others down. You can be generous with praise and acknowledgement. In fact, the best people are often the most generous in recognizing others' contributions. They're secure enough in their own abilities that they don't feel threatened by acknowledging excellence in others. Your words have power. Use them to build up, not tear down. Use them to open up possibilities, not close them down. Use them to inspire confidence, not doubt. Chapter 5. Excellence versus perfection. Now, let's address a common misconception. When I tell you to act as if you're the best, some of you might think that means you have to be perfect. Nothing could be further from the truth. Perfection is an illusion. It's a mirage that keeps you stuck in place. It's the enemy of progress, the killer of creativity, the source of endless anxiety. Excellence, on the other hand, is real. It's achievable. It's about doing the best you can with what you have where you are right now. It's about continuous improvement, not flawless performance. The truly great people in any field understand this distinction. They don't wait until conditions are perfect to take action. They don't postpone their goals until they've eliminated all their weaknesses. They don't refuse to share their work until it's absolutely flawless. They pursue excellence. They do great work. They put it out into the world. They get feedback. They improve. They do it again. That's the cycle of excellence. Perfectionism looks like this. They wait. They polish endlessly. They're never quite ready. They're paralyzed by the fear that their work might have flaws. And often, they never ship anything at all. Which approach do you think leads to greater achievement? When you act as if you're the best, you're not aiming for perfection. You're aiming for excellence. You are committing to doing your best work, while also accepting that your best work will have imperfections. And that's okay. That's human. Let me tell you something that might surprise you. Mistakes are inevitable. Errors will happen. Things will go wrong. This is true for everyone, including people at the very top of their fields. The difference is how they respond to those mistakes. Do they let them derail their confidence? Do they give up? No. They acknowledge the mistake. They learn from it, and they move forward. They fall forward. When you act as if you're the best, you give yourself permission to make mistakes. You're saying, I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to take risks. And if I fall, I'll fall forward. Each mistake is just feedback that helps me improve. This mindset is liberating. It frees you from the paralyzing fear of making mistakes. It allows you to take action, to experiment, to try new things. And that's where all progress happens. Here's another important aspect of the excellence versus perfection distinction. Perfectionists often get so focused on eliminating flaws that they forget about maximizing strengths. People who pursue excellence understand that it's more effective to build on your strengths than to obsess over your weaknesses. Yes, you should address significant weaknesses that hold you back, but your greatest achievements will come from fully developing and leveraging your natural strengths. Let's talk about the relationship between standards and boundaries. Raising your standards often means setting better boundaries. It means saying no to things that don't align with your standards. It means not accepting treatment from others that falls below your standards. When you act as if you're the best, you set clear boundaries. You protect your time for your most important work. You don't let others disrespect you. You don't overcommit yourself to the point where you can't meet your own standards. So give yourself permission to be imperfect. Give yourself permission to make mistakes. Give yourself permission to put work out into the world that you know could be better, but that you also know is good enough for now. That's what acting as if you're the best really means. Not pretending you're perfect, but committing to excellence. Understanding that excellence is a journey, not a destination. Chapter 6, The Power of Habits. Let's talk about something fundamental, your habits. Because here's a truth you need to understand. You are what you repeatedly do. Excellence isn't an act, it's a habit. When you act as if you're the best, you need to adopt the habits of excellence. You need to structure your daily life in a way that consistently moves you toward your goals, that consistently reinforces the identity you're building. Think about the best people in any field. What separates them from everyone else? Sure, talent plays a role, but what really sets them apart is their habits, the things they do every single day, often when no one is watching, often when they don't feel like it. Your habits are the building blocks of your life. They're the small daily actions that, over time, shape your character and determine your destiny. And here's the beautiful thing about habits. Once they're established, They become automatic. That's how acting as if you're the best becomes being your best. You start by consciously adopting the habits of excellence. At first, it requires discipline and effort, but over time, those habits become part of who you are. They become automatic. So, what are the habits of excellence? Let's break this down into several key areas. First, your morning routine. How you start your day sets the tone for everything that follows. People who act as if they're the best don't roll out of bed and stumble into their day. They start intentionally. Maybe they exercise first thing, getting their body energized and their mind clear. Maybe they meditate or journal, setting their intentions for the day. Whatever the specific activities, the point is that they take control of their morning rather than letting their morning control them. Next, the habit of preparation. The best people in any field are prepared. They don't wing it. Before a meeting, they review the agenda. Before a presentation, they practice. Before a difficult conversation, they think through possible scenarios. This preparation isn't because they're insecure. It's because they respect their craft and they respect the people they're working with. They know that being prepared allows them to perform at their highest level. What about your habits around continuous learning? The best people are always learning, always growing, always expanding their knowledge and skills. They read extensively. They seek out mentors and coaches. They're curious about their field. Learning isn't something they do occasionally when they have time. It's a regular habit, as much a part of their routine as eating or sleeping. Let's talk about the habit of focus. In our distracted world, the ability to focus deeply on important work is becoming increasingly rare and increasingly valuable. The best people protect their attention fiercely. They have times blocked off for deep work where they eliminate distractions and focus completely on their most important tasks. They don't constantly check email or social media. They guard their mental energy and direct it toward high-value activities. Here's another crucial habit: taking care of your physical health. Your body is the foundation for everything else. The best people prioritize sleep. They eat well. They exercise regularly. They understand that physical fitness supports performance. Let's talk about the habit of reflection. The best people regularly reflect on their performance, on their progress, on their priorities. They don't just rush from one thing to the next. They pause and think. Maybe they journal each evening. Maybe they have a weekly review where they assess what worked and what didn't. This habit of reflection allows them to learn from their experiences and stay aligned with their long-term goals. Here's another important habit: seeking feedback. The best people actively seek out feedback on their performance. They want to know how they can improve. They're not defensive about criticism. They see it as valuable information. And here's the habit that might be most important: showing up every day, even when they don't feel like it, even when they're not inspired, even when they're tired or discouraged. They understand that success comes from consistency, not from occasional bursts of effort. They understand that they're building momentum, and momentum requires regular, sustained effort. The beautiful thing about habits is that they compound. Small actions, repeated consistently over time, lead to extraordinary results. That's the power of habit. Here's a powerful framework: the 1% improvement rule. If you can improve by just 1% each day, you'll be 37 times better by the end of the year. That's the power of compounding small improvements. Think about your daily habits like deposits in a bank account. Each good habit is a deposit toward your future success. Each bad habit is a withdrawal. What kind of account balance are you building? Let's talk about habit stacking. This is where you link a new habit to an existing one. For example, after I pour my morning coffee, I will write down my 3 priorities for the day. The existing habit becomes the trigger for the new one. Another powerful technique: environmental design. Make good habits easy and bad habits hard. Want to exercise more? Put your workout clothes next to your bed. Want to read more? Put books in every room. Want to eat better? Stock your kitchen with healthy food and remove junk food. Your environment shapes your behavior more than you realize. When you act as if you're the best, you design your environment to support the habits you want to build. Here's something else about habits. They create identity. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. Every time you exercise, you're casting a vote for being an athlete. Every time you write, you're casting a vote for being a writer. Start small. Don't try to overhaul your entire life overnight. Pick 1 or 2 habits to establish. Master those. Then add more. Gradually, over time, you'll build a lifestyle that naturally produces excellence. Remember, you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. When you act as if you're the best, you build systems and habits that make excellence inevitable. Chapter 7. True Humility. Now we need to address something that might seem contradictory. I've been telling you to act as if you're the best, to carry yourself with confidence, to believe in your abilities. And now I'm going to tell you about humility. But these aren't contradictory. In fact, they're complementary. True humility isn't about thinking less of yourself. It's about thinking of yourself less. It's about being so secure in who you are that you don't need to constantly prove yourself or compare yourself to others. When you act as if you're the best, you're cultivating this kind of humility. You're so focused on doing your best work, on growing and improving, on serving others, that you don't have time or energy for ego games. Let me explain this paradox more clearly. Arrogance is actually a form of insecurity. It's overcompensation. People who are truly confident don't need to brag. People who are truly excellent don't need to put others down. Their work speaks for itself. So when you act as if you're the best, you're actually practicing a form of humility. You're saying, I have unique gifts and talents, and it's my responsibility to develop them to their fullest potential, so I can be of maximum service to others. See that last part? Service to others. That's the key. True excellence is never just about you. It's about what you can contribute, how you can help, what value you can create for others. Think about the greatest leaders in history. Were they arrogant? No. They were confident, yes. They believed in their cause. They believed in their abilities. But they were also humble. They gave credit to others. They acknowledged their own mistakes. They served something greater than themselves. Here's another aspect of true humility. The willingness to learn from anyone and everyone. Arrogant people think they know everything. Humble people know there's always more to learn. When you act as if you're the best, you're not saying you've arrived, that you have nothing left to learn. You're saying you're committed to continuous growth. And part of that growth comes from being open to learning from unexpected sources. Here's another element of true humility. The ability to admit when you're wrong. Arrogant people can never admit mistakes. Humble people can own their errors, learn from them, and move on. When you act as if you're the best, you're secure enough to admit mistakes. You don't need to be right all the time. You can say, I was wrong about that, without it threatening your sense of self-worth. Let's talk about celebrating others' success. Insecure people are threatened by others' achievements. Secure people celebrate them. When you act as if you're the best, you're secure enough in your own abilities that you're not threatened by others' success. In fact, you're inspired by it. You genuinely want others to succeed and thrive. Here's another dimension of humility, perspective. Humble people understand that they're part of something larger than themselves. They see themselves in context. When you act as if you're the best, you're not saying you're the best at everything or that you don't need anyone else. You're saying you're committed to being excellent in your area of focus, while also recognizing that you're part of a team, part of a community, part of something bigger. Let's discuss the humility of service. The truly great people in any field see their work as service. They're not just pursuing excellence for their own satisfaction. They're doing it to make a contribution, to solve problems, to help others. When you act as if you're the best, you're committing to this kind of service. You're developing your abilities not just for yourself, but so you can be more effective in helping others, in creating value, in making a difference. This combination of confidence and humility is powerful. It's magnetic. It draws people to you and creates opportunities. It allows you to be strong and compassionate, excellent and accessible, accomplished and still hungry to grow. That's the paradox of true confidence. It includes humility. And when you understand that paradox, when you embody it, that's when you truly act as if you're the best. Chapter 8. Leadership through example. Whether you're in a formal leadership position or not, you have the opportunity to lead by example every single day. When you act as if you're the best, you naturally become a leader. People are drawn to those who exude confidence and competence. But here's what true leadership looks like. It's not about dominating others or always being the loudest voice in the room. It's about inspiring others through your actions, your consistency, your commitment to excellence. Think about the leaders who have inspired you in your life. They didn't inspire you by telling you how great they were. They inspired you by showing you, through their actions, what was possible. They raised your standards simply by meeting their own high standards. That's the kind of leader you become when you act as if you're the best. You set a standard that others naturally want to meet. You create an environment where excellence becomes the norm. Here's an important truth about leadership. It's not about having all the answers. It's about asking the right questions and being willing to seek out the best solutions. When you act as if you're the best, you're confident enough to say, "I don't know," when you don't know. You're secure enough to invite input from others. You understand that the best solutions often come from collaboration. Leadership through example means walking your talk. It means holding yourself to the standards you expect from others. It means being the change you want to see. If you want your team to be innovative, you need to be willing to take risks. If you want your children to be kind, you need to model kindness. If you want your colleagues to be accountable, you need to take ownership of your own responsibilities. When you act as if you're the best, you inspire. People watch how you handle challenges. They notice how you treat others. They observe your work ethic, your integrity, your commitment, and they're influenced by what they see. Let's talk about another aspect of leadership, empowerment. Great leaders don't create followers. They create more leaders. They empower others to step into their own greatness. When you act as if you're the best, you don't feel threatened by helping others succeed. In fact, you actively work to develop the people around you. You share your knowledge. You provide opportunities for growth. Here's another key aspect of leadership, clarity of vision. Leaders see where things are going. They can articulate a compelling picture of the future. They can get others excited about working toward that vision. When you act as if you're the best, you develop this clarity. You know what you're working toward. You can communicate it in a way that inspires others. Let's discuss the courage that leadership requires. Acting as if you're the best means being willing to take risks, to make difficult decisions, to stand up for what you believe, and even when it's unpopular. Leaders go first. They step into the unknown. They're willing to fail publicly in pursuit of something important. This courage is inspiring. When others see you being brave, it gives them permission to be brave too. Here's another dimension of leadership, resilience. Leaders face setbacks. Things go wrong. But leaders don't give up. They bounce back. They learn from failures and try again. When you act as if you're the best, you model this resilience. Others see that setbacks don't destroy you. They see that you persist. Let's talk about integrity. This might be the most important aspect of leadership. Integrity means your actions align with your values. It means you do the right thing even when no one is watching. When you act as if you're the best, you maintain the highest standards of integrity. You're honest. You keep your commitments. You treat people fairly. This integrity earns trust, and trust is the foundation of all effective leadership. Leadership through example is powerful. It's how you multiply your impact. It's how you create lasting change. It's how you leave a legacy that extends far beyond your own individual achievements. When you act as if you're the best, you're not just improving your own life. You're elevating everyone around you. You're creating a ripple effect that can transform teams, organizations, and communities. Chapter 9, Dancing with Fear. Let's talk about something that holds so many people back: fear. Fear of failure. Fear of success. Fear of judgment. Fear of the unknown. Here's a truth I need you to understand. Fear is inevitable. It's part of being human. The people who act as if they're the best aren't fearless. They just have a different relationship with fear. They don't see fear as a stop sign. They see it as information. They see it as a signal that they're stepping out of their comfort zone. And they know that's exactly where growth happens. Think about it. When was the last time you grew significantly while staying comfortable? Growth requires discomfort. It requires doing things you've never done before. And doing things you've never done before triggers fear. But here's the problem. Your brain's definition of safe is limited. Your brain thinks safe means staying in familiar territory, avoiding risks. But that kind of safety comes at a terrible cost. It costs you your potential. It costs you your dreams. When you act as if you're the best, you acknowledge the fear. You feel it, but you don't let it control you. You take action anyway, not because you're fearless, but because you're courageous. And courage isn't the absence of fear. It's action in the face of fear. Let me give you a framework for working with fear. First, identify what you're specifically afraid of. Often, we have this vague sense of dread, but we haven't pinpointed exactly what we're afraid of. Are you afraid of failing? Dig deeper. What would failure mean to you? Are you afraid of being embarrassed? Losing money? Disappointing people you care about? Get specific about your fear, because once you name it, once you bring it into the light, it loses some of its power over you. Second, question your fear. Is it based on reality or imagination? Often, our fears are exaggerated. We catastrophize. We imagine worst-case scenarios that are actually quite unlikely. Ask yourself, what's the worst that could realistically happen? And even if that happened, could I handle it? Most of the time, you'll realize that even your worst-case scenario is manageable. Third, consider the cost of not acting. We tend to focus on the risks of taking action, but there's also a risk in not taking action. There's a cost to playing small, to staying comfortable. What will your life look like in 5 years if you let fear keep you stuck? What opportunities will you miss? What growth will you forfeit? Fourth, take action despite the fear. Start small if you need to. Take one small step outside your comfort zone, then another. Build your courage gradually. But here's the key. Don't wait until the fear goes away. It won't. Not completely. You need to act while afraid. That's how you build courage. When you act as if you're the best, you're practicing this courage every day. Every time you speak up when you're nervous. Every time you share your work when you're afraid it's not good enough. Every time you take on a challenge when you're not sure you can succeed. And here's what happens when you consistently act despite fear. The fear doesn't necessarily go away, but your relationship with it changes. You become more comfortable with discomfort. You start to see fear as a companion on the journey rather than an obstacle. Let's talk about a specific type of fear. Fear of judgment. This stops more people than actual lack of ability ever could. Who does she think she is? He's going to fall flat on his face. They're going to laugh at me. These thoughts stop countless people. So let's address this head on. First, most people are too busy worrying about themselves to spend much time judging you. They're not thinking about you as much as you think they are. Second, the people who do judge you harshly, those aren't the ones whose opinions should matter to you. They're often projecting their own fears and limitations onto you. And third, you can't control what others think of you. You just can't. People are going to think what they think. You might as well do what you want to do. Be who you want to be. Because you're going to be judged either way. When you act as if you're the best, you're accepting that some people won't like it. That's the price of admission. But it's a price worth paying for the opportunity to fully express your potential. Let's talk about fear of failure. This is probably the biggest one. But here's what I want you to understand. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of success. Every successful person has failed. Multiple times. The difference is, they don't let failure define them or stop them. They see failure as feedback, as a learning opportunity. When you act as if you're the best, you give yourself permission to fail. In fact, you expect to fail sometimes. Because you're pushing your boundaries. You're trying new things. And when you do those things, failure is inevitable. But so is growth. So is learning. So is eventual success. Let me share a powerful reframe. Instead of what if I fail, ask what if I succeed. We spend so much time imagining negative outcomes. What if we spent equal time imagining positive outcomes? These positive possibilities are just as likely as the negative ones. Maybe more so. Ask yourself regularly, what's the best that could happen? Here's another insight about fear. It often masquerades as other things. Perfectionism is often fear disguised as high standards. Procrastination is often fear disguised as poor time management. When you find yourself procrastinating or being perfectionistic, ask yourself, what am I afraid of? Bringing the fear into awareness robs it of its power. Let me tell you something important. Everyone is afraid sometimes. The difference is, the best people have learned to act anyway. They've learned to dance with fear rather than being paralyzed by it. When you act as if you're the best, you're joining their ranks. You're becoming someone who feels fear and moves forward anyway. And every time you do that, you become stronger, more confident, more capable. The fear doesn't disappear, but you get better at dancing with it. Here's a powerful technique for managing fear. The 5-4-3-2-1 method. When you feel fear rising, engage your senses. Identify 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. This grounds you in the present moment and calms your nervous system. Another tool, fear setting instead of goal setting. Tim Ferriss popularized this. Instead of just setting goals, define your fears. What's the worst that could happen? What steps could you take to repair the damage? What would be the permanent impact? Often, you'll realize your fears are manageable. Let's talk about the concept of productive discomfort. Not all discomfort is created equal. There's unproductive discomfort, like staying in a toxic situation. And there's productive discomfort, like pushing yourself to grow. When you act as if you're the best, you seek out productive discomfort. You recognize that the discomfort of growth is temporary, but the regret of not trying lasts forever. Here's something powerful, visualization. Athletes use this technique constantly. Before you face a fear-inducing situation, visualize yourself handling it with confidence and skill. See yourself succeeding. Feel the emotions of success. This primes your brain for the actual experience. Remember this. Courage is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Every time you act despite fear, you're training your courage muscle. Start with small acts of courage and build from there. And here's the ultimate truth about fear. On the other side of fear is freedom. The things you're most afraid of? Those are often the exact things that will set you free. Chapter 10. Resilience and Bounce Back. Life will knock you down. That's not pessimism. That's reality. You'll face setbacks. Things won't go as planned. You'll make mistakes. You'll encounter obstacles. The question isn't whether you'll face these challenges. The question is, how will you respond when you do? When you act as if you're the best, you develop an unshakable core of resilience. You see challenges not as insurmountable obstacles, but as opportunities to prove your mettle. You bounce back faster from setbacks because you know they're temporary detours, not dead ends. Resilience isn't about being invulnerable. It's not about never getting hurt or discouraged. It's about your ability to recover, to adapt, to keep moving forward even when things are hard. Think about a boxer. They're going to get hit. That's part of the sport. The best boxers aren't the ones who never get hit. They're the ones who can take a hit and keep fighting. They're the ones who can get knocked down and get back up. That's resilience. And that's what you're building when you act as if you're the best. Let's talk about what resilience looks like in practice. First, it's about perspective. Resilient people see setbacks as temporary and specific rather than permanent and pervasive. When something goes wrong, they don't think, I'm a failure. Everything always goes wrong for me. Instead, they think, this particular thing didn't work out. Let me figure out why and try a different approach. The situation is the same in both cases, but the interpretation is radically different, and that interpretation determines how quickly you bounce back. When you act as if you're the best, you consciously choose empowering interpretations of setbacks. You don't let one failure define you. You maintain perspective. Second, resilience is about emotional regulation. When something goes wrong, you'll feel disappointed, frustrated, maybe even devastated. That's normal. But resilient people don't let those emotions control them indefinitely. They feel the feelings. They process them. And then they move forward. When you act as if you're the best, you develop this emotional agility. You feel your feelings without being consumed by them. You acknowledge disappointment without letting it become despair. Third, resilience is about maintaining a sense of agency. Resilient people believe they have some control over their circumstances and their responses. When things go wrong, they ask, what can I learn from this? What can I do differently next time? What's within my control? They focus on what they can influence rather than what they can't. Fourth, resilience is about having a support system. Nobody bounces back alone. We all need people who believe in us, who encourage us, who help us maintain perspective. When you act as if you're the best, you build and maintain relationships with people who support your growth. You're willing to reach out when you need help. Fifth, resilience is about self-compassion. Self-criticism doesn't motivate. It demoralizes. Self-compassion, on the other hand, actually enhances resilience. When you can treat yourself with kindness when you fail, when you can acknowledge that everyone struggles, you're more likely to pick yourself up and try again. When you act as if you're the best, you're your own best coach, not your own worst critic. You push yourself, yes. You hold yourself to high standards, but you also encourage yourself. Let's talk about how you handle failure. How you interpret and respond to failure is one of the most important determinants of long-term success. When you fail at something, you have a choice. You can see it as evidence that you're not capable, that you should give up, or you can see it as valuable feedback, as a learning opportunity. Successful people consistently choose the second interpretation. They mine their failures for lessons. They ask, what can I learn from this? How can this failure make me stronger? When you act as if you're the best, you adopt this mindset toward failure. You don't seek out failure, but when it happens, you extract maximum value from it. Here's another key aspect of resilience: flexibility. Life rarely goes according to plan. The ability to adapt, to pivot, to find alternative paths when your original path is blocked, that's crucial. When you act as if you're the best, you're flexible. If one strategy doesn't work, you try another. If one path is blocked, you find another route. You stay committed to your goals while being flexible about how you achieve them. Here's something important to understand. Resilience isn't just reactive. It's also proactive. It's about building reserves of strength, confidence, and support before you need them. Think of resilience like physical fitness. You don't start trying to get in shape after you have a heart attack. You build fitness gradually over time. Same with psychological resilience. You build it gradually through practices like maintaining supportive relationships, taking care of your physical health, practicing emotional regulation, maintaining perspective. When you act as if you're the best, you're building resilience every day, even on good days. You are preparing yourself for the inevitable challenges that will come. Let's talk about the role of meaning in resilience. Research shows that people who have a strong sense of purpose, who feel their lives have meaning, are more resilient in the face of challenges. When you're connected to a larger purpose, temporary setbacks don't derail you. You keep going because you're not just working for yourself. When you act as if you're the best, what are you serving? What's the larger purpose behind your pursuit of excellence? Connecting to that purpose strengthens your resilience. Resilience is one of the most valuable qualities you can develop. It's what allows you to persist when others give up. It's what turns setbacks into comebacks. It's what transforms challenges into triumphs. Let me share some practical resilience building techniques. First, the best possible self-exercise. Spend 15 minutes writing about your best possible future self. Imagine everything has gone as well as it possibly could. What does your life look like? This builds optimism and resilience. Second, gratitude practice. When you're facing setbacks, it's easy to focus on what's wrong. Deliberately shift your attention to what's right. What 3 things are you grateful for today? This doesn't deny problems, but it provides perspective. Third, build a resilience reserve before you need it. Athletes train in the off-season, so they're ready for competition. Build your mental resilience during good times, so you have reserves during bad times. Fourth, develop a resilience ritual. What do you do when something goes wrong? Maybe you go for a walk, call a friend, journal about it, or take 3 deep breaths. Having a predetermined ritual helps you respond instead of react. Fifth, reframe stress. Research shows that if you view stress as a challenge rather than a threat, your body responds differently. Your heart rate might increase either way, but when you see it as a challenge, your blood vessels don't constrict. The physiology of excitement and stress are similar. The difference is your interpretation. Here's a powerful concept: anti-fragility. This goes beyond resilience. Resilience means you bounce back to your previous state. Anti-fragility means you actually get stronger from challenges. Like muscles that grow stronger from being stressed, you can become anti-fragile by deliberately seeking out challenges. Another key to resilience: maintain hope. Not blind optimism, but realistic hope. The belief that things can get better and that you have agency in making them better. Hope is a skill you can cultivate. And remember, resilient people aren't people who never struggle. They're people who struggle and keep going anyway. Your struggles don't make you weak. How you handle them can make you strong. Chapter 11. Raising your standards. Let's talk about standards. Not rules imposed by others. Not arbitrary expectations. I'm talking about the standards you set for yourself, about what you will and won't accept in your life, in your work, in your relationships, in your own behavior. Here's a truth that might be uncomfortable. You're currently getting exactly what you've settled for. The quality of your work, the health of your relationships, the state of your finances, your physical condition. These are all reflections of the standards you've been willing to accept. When you act as if you're the best, one of the first things that happens is that your standards rise. You stop settling. You stop accepting mediocrity. You demand more of yourself and from your life. This isn't about being dissatisfied or ungrateful. It's about recognizing your potential and refusing to live below it. Think about it this way. If you went to a 5-star restaurant and they served you mediocre food on dirty plates with terrible service, would you accept that? No. You'd expect them to meet the standards appropriate to what they claim to be. Why should you accept less from yourself? When you act as if you're the best, you establish standards appropriate to that identity. You ask yourself, how would the best person in my field approach this? And then you hold yourself to that standard. In your work, raising your standards means no longer producing sloppy, half-hearted output. It means taking pride in everything you create, even things that no one else will see. It means being thorough, being excellent, being someone who consistently delivers high-quality work. What would it mean to raise your standards for your work? Maybe it means checking your work more carefully before submitting it. Maybe it means learning new skills so you can do your job better. In your relationships, raising your standards means no longer tolerating toxic behavior. It means expecting to be treated with respect. It means being willing to communicate directly about problems. But it also means holding yourself to higher standards in how you treat others. It means being the kind of partner, friend, family member that you'd want in your own life. In your health, raising your standards means no longer accepting suboptimal physical condition as inevitable. It means deciding that you deserve to feel good in your body. It means making choices that support your health. In your finances, raising your standards means no longer living paycheck to paycheck if you have the means to do otherwise. It means being intentional about money rather than reactive. Now, here's the key to successfully raising your standards. You have to believe you're worth it. You have to believe you deserve better than what you've been accepting. This is why acting as if you're the best is so powerful. When you start carrying yourself with that confidence, when you start believing in your worth and capabilities, you naturally stop settling. You naturally raise your standards. And it doesn't happen all at once. You raise your standards progressively, area by area, step by step. Maybe you start with your work. You decide that from now on, you're not going to submit anything that you're not proud of. You're going to do excellent work consistently. As you experience the benefits of that raised standard, as you see how it affects your results and your self-respect, you'll be motivated to raise standards in other areas too. Here's something important to understand. When you raise your standards, there's often an awkward transition period. You're no longer accepting what you used to accept, but you haven't fully created the new reality yet. During this transition, you might feel uncomfortable. You might doubt whether you can really sustain these higher standards. Push through this discomfort. This is just the gap between your old normal and your new normal. Stay committed to your raised standards, and eventually, they won't feel like a stretch. They'll feel like just who you are. Let's talk about the relationship between standards and boundaries. Raising your standards often means setting better boundaries. It means saying no to things that don't align with your standards. It means not accepting treatment from others that falls below your standards. It means protecting your time and energy so you can meet your own high standards. When you act as if you're the best, you set clear boundaries. You protect your time for your most important work. You don't let others disrespect you. Here's another insight. Your standards send a signal to the world about how you expect to be treated. When you have high standards for yourself, others tend to rise to meet them. When you accept mediocrity from yourself, others feel free to give you mediocrity too. This is why raising your standards has a ripple effect. It doesn't just change you. It changes how others interact with you. It changes what opportunities come your way. Here's a practical exercise for raising your standards. For each major area of your life, ask yourself 2 questions. 1. What am I currently accepting that I shouldn't be? 2. What would someone at the top of their game expect in this area? The gap between your answers reveals where you need to raise your standards. Then, pick 1 or 2 specific standards to raise. Don't try to overhaul everything at once. Pick the areas where raising your standards will have the biggest impact, and start there. Here's what you'll find. As your standards rise, so does your self-respect. There's a direct correlation between the standards you maintain and how you feel about yourself. When you consistently meet high standards, even in small ways, you build evidence that you're capable and worthy. This builds a powerful positive identity. So raise your standards. Demand more of yourself. Refuse to settle, not from a place of harsh self-judgment, but from a place of believing in your potential and committing to fulfilling it. Here's a practical way to think about standards. The Ritz-Carlton Standard. At the Ritz-Carlton, every employee is empowered to spend up to $2,000 to solve a guest's problem without asking permission. That's a standard that says, we trust you to do what's right. Excellence is non-negotiable. What would it look like to set that kind of standard for yourself? What would it look like to give yourself permission to do whatever it takes to meet your standards of excellence? Let's talk about micro-standards. These are the small, daily standards that add up to something significant. For example, if your standard is, I always arrive 10 minutes early, that might seem small. But over a year, that's thousands of minutes of being prepared, being present, being reliable. Or maybe your standard is, I never send an email without proofreading it twice. Small, yes, but it compounds into a reputation for precision and professionalism. Another powerful concept, the 100% rule. It's easier to stick to standards 100% of the time than 98% of the time. Why? Because once you make exceptions, your brain starts negotiating. Well, I made an exception yesterday, so when your standard is absolute, there's no negotiation. Think about the standards you're modeling for others. If you have children, they're watching. If you lead a team, they're watching. Your standards don't just affect you. They create a culture around you. One final thought on standards. They should evolve. As you grow, your standards should grow too. What was once a stretch becomes your baseline. Then you set a new, higher standard. That's how you continuously level up. The question isn't whether you have standards. Everyone has standards. The question is, are your standards pulling you toward the life you want, or holding you in the life you have? Chapter 12. Focus and Time Mastery. In our modern world, filled with constant distractions, the ability to focus deeply has become both increasingly rare and increasingly valuable. When you act as if you're the best, you recognize that your attention and your time are your most precious resources, and you protect them accordingly. Think about the truly excellent people in any field. One thing they all have in common is the ability to focus intensely on what matters most. They're not scattered. They're not trying to do everything. They're laser-focused on their priorities. This kind of focus doesn't happen by accident. It's a deliberate choice, supported by specific habits and systems. Let's start with the fundamental question, what should you be focusing on? Because focus isn't just about concentration. It's about concentrating on the right things. When you act as if you're the best, you're clear about your priorities. You know what your most important goals are. You understand which activities will move you toward those goals and which are just busy work. This clarity is essential. Without it, you might be very focused and very busy, but you are not necessarily being effective. So the first step in mastering focus is getting clear on your priorities. What are the 3 to 5 most important goals you're working toward right now? Not 30 goals, 3 to 5. When you act as if you're the best, you make these choices deliberately. You say no to good opportunities so you can say yes to great ones. Once you're clear on your priorities, the next step is structuring your time to support them. How much time are you dedicating to your most important goals? When you act as if you're the best, you block time for your most important work. This isn't negotiable time. This is sacred time, protected time, time when you do your most valuable work. During this time, you eliminate distractions. You turn off notifications. You close unnecessary tabs and apps. You create conditions that allow for deep focus. This might sound extreme, but consider the alternative. Scattered attention, constant interruptions, never really going deep on anything. That's the default for most people. And that's why most people never achieve excellence. Let's talk about the types of work you do. Not all tasks require the same level of focus or the same type of energy. Deep work, the kind that requires intense concentration and produces high value, should be done during your peak energy times with minimal distractions. Shallow work, routine tasks that need to be done but don't require intense focus, can be done during lower energy times or in between other things. When you act as if you're the best, you're strategic about when you do different types of work. You don't waste your peak hours on routine tasks. Now let's address the modern plague of constant connectivity. Your phone, social media, email, they're all designed to grab and hold your attention. If you let them, they'll fragment your focus into 1,000 pieces. When you act as if you're the best, you take control of your relationship with technology. You use it as a tool rather than letting it use you. This might mean turning off most notifications. It might mean checking email only at specific times rather than constantly. It might mean putting your phone in another room during focus time. Here's another crucial aspect: single tasking rather than multitasking. Research is clear. Multitasking is a myth. What we call multitasking is actually rapid task switching, and it comes with a significant cognitive cost. When you act as if you're the best, you single task. You work on one thing at a time, giving it your full attention. You complete it before moving to something else. Let's talk about the role of rest in maintaining focus. Focus isn't infinite. Your brain needs breaks to process and recharge. When you act as if you're the best, you build rest into your schedule. You take real breaks where you step away from your work. These breaks aren't wasted time. They're essential for maintaining high-level performance. Here's another important aspect: learning to say no. Every yes is a no to something else. Every commitment you make takes time away from other possible uses of that time. When you act as if you're the best, you're selective about your commitments. You say no to things that don't align with your priorities. You protect your time for what matters most. Let's discuss the importance of planning. When you act as if you're the best, you don't just react to whatever comes up each day. You plan intentionally. Maybe you plan your week every Sunday evening. Maybe you plan your day every morning. When you plan, you decide in advance what you're going to focus on. You allocate your time deliberately. Here's something else about time mastery: understanding your own rhythms. Different people have different energy patterns throughout the day. When you act as if you're the best, you pay attention to your own patterns and work with them. You schedule your most important work during your peak times. Let's talk about the cumulative effect of focused time. If you can create just 2 hours of deep, focused work on your most important priorities every day, that's 10 hours a week, 40 hours a month, nearly 500 hours a year. Think about what you could accomplish with 500 hours of focused work on your most important goal. The power isn't in any single session. It's in the compounding effect of consistent focus over time. Here's a final thought about focus. It's not just about productivity. It's about presence. When you're able to focus fully on what you're doing, you experience life more richly. Focus and time mastery are superpowers in our distracted world. When you develop these abilities, you gain an enormous advantage. You accomplish more. You do better work. You experience less stress. This is what it means to act as if you're the best, to value your time and attention enough to protect them fiercely and use them wisely. Let's talk about some practical time management techniques that the best people use. First, time blocking. This is where you schedule specific blocks of time for specific types of work. You might have a 2-hour block every morning for deep work, a 1-hour block after lunch for meetings, and a 30-minute block at the end of the day for planning tomorrow. The key is treating these blocks as sacred appointments with yourself. You wouldn't skip a meeting with your CEO. Don't skip your deep work block. Second, the 2-minute rule. If something takes less than 2 minutes, do it immediately. This prevents small tasks from piling up and cluttering your mental space. Third, batch processing. Group similar tasks together. Answer all your emails in one session rather than constantly checking. Make all your phone calls in one block. This reduces the cognitive switching cost. Fourth, the 80-20 rule, also known as the Pareto principle. Roughly 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. Identify that critical 20% and focus there. Don't give equal time to activities that don't deserve it. Fifth, strategic procrastination. Yes, you read that right. Not everything deserves to be done. Some things can be delayed indefinitely with no negative consequences. Be strategic about what you postpone. Here's a powerful question to ask yourself regularly. What is the best use of my time right now? Not what can I do, but what should I do? Big difference. Another tool, the Eisenhower matrix. Categorize tasks into 4 quadrants. Urgent and important. Important but not urgent. Urgent but not important. Neither urgent nor important. Focus on the important but not urgent. That's where strategic work happens. And here's the ultimate time mastery insight. You can't manage time. Time passes at the same rate for everyone. What you're really managing is your attention and your energy. Focus on those. Chapter 13, Emotional Intelligence. Let's talk about something that often gets overlooked when people think about excellence. Emotional intelligence. The ability to understand and manage your own emotions, and to understand and influence the emotions of others. This might not seem directly related to acting as if you're the best, but it's actually crucial, because emotions drive behavior, and behavior creates results. Think about the most effective people you know. Yes, they're skilled and knowledgeable, but they also have strong emotional intelligence. They stay calm under pressure. They navigate complex interpersonal situations with grace. They motivate and inspire others. When you act as if you're the best, you develop your emotional intelligence deliberately. Let's start with self-awareness, the foundation of emotional intelligence. This is the ability to recognize and understand your own emotions as they're happening. Most people have relatively low self-awareness. They feel something, but they don't step back and identify what they're feeling or understand why. They just react. When you act as if you're the best, you cultivate self-awareness. You pay attention to your emotional state. When you notice yourself feeling something strong, you pause and name it. I'm feeling anxious right now. I'm feeling frustrated. This simple act creates a little bit of distance from the emotion. Instead of being your emotion, you're observing your emotion. That distance gives you choice about how to respond. Self-awareness is the first step to emotional regulation, which is the ability to manage your emotions effectively. Emotional regulation doesn't mean suppressing your emotions. It means experiencing your emotions without being controlled by them. It means being able to stay calm and think clearly even when you're feeling strong emotions. When you have strong emotional regulation, you can feel those emotions, acknowledge them, and then choose your response based on what will be most effective. How do you develop emotional regulation? Partly through the self-awareness we just discussed. Breathing techniques help too. Creating space before responding is crucial. You don't have to respond immediately to every stimulus. Reframing is another powerful tool. How you think about a situation influences how you feel about it. If you interpret someone's criticism as a personal attack, you'll feel defensive. If you interpret it as helpful feedback, you'll feel curious. When you act as if you're the best, you practice reframing. You look for interpretations that serve you, that empower you. Now let's talk about empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. This is crucial for anyone who wants to be excellent in their interactions with people. Empathy allows you to connect with others on a deeper level. It helps you understand what motivates them, what concerns them, what they need. In a negotiation, empathy helps you understand what the other party really wants. In a conflict, empathy helps you see the other person's perspective. In leadership, empathy helps you motivate and inspire people. When you act as if you're the best, you cultivate empathy. You practice seeing situations from others' perspectives. You ask yourself, what might they be feeling? What might be driving their behavior? Here's another aspect of emotional intelligence: social skills. This is the ability to build rapport, to communicate effectively, to influence others, to manage conflicts. People with strong social skills make others feel comfortable. They can read social situations and adjust their behavior accordingly. When you act as if you're the best, you develop these social skills. You pay attention to how your words and actions affect others. You practice active listening. You become more skilled at building relationships. Let's talk about motivation, another key component of emotional intelligence. This is about understanding what drives you and being able to maintain that drive even when things are difficult. When you act as if you're the best, you're clear about what motivates you. You connect your daily actions to your larger purpose. You cultivate intrinsic motivation. Here's something crucial. Emotional intelligence is not about being nice all the time or avoiding conflict. It's about being effective in your relationships and in your own emotional management. Sometimes emotional intelligence means having a difficult conversation that needs to be had. Sometimes it means setting a boundary that might upset someone. When you act as if you're the best, you use your emotional intelligence to be effective, not just to be liked. Let's discuss the role of emotional intelligence in handling stress. High-stress situations trigger strong emotional responses. If you can't manage those responses, you won't perform well under pressure. When you have strong emotional intelligence, you can stay calm and clear-headed even in stressful situations. You recognize the signs of stress in yourself and take steps to manage it. This ability to perform under pressure is what separates good from great. Here's a final thought. Emotional intelligence isn't fixed. Unlike IQ, which is relatively stable, emotional intelligence can be developed and improved at any age. Every interaction is an opportunity to practice emotional intelligence. Every challenging emotion is an opportunity to practice regulation. When you act as if you're the best, you see these opportunities and you take them. You're committed to continuous growth in your emotional intelligence. Master your emotions and you master your life. That's the power of emotional intelligence. Chapter 14, The Learning Mindset. One of the most powerful aspects of acting as if you're the best is that it doesn't close you off to learning. In fact, it does the opposite. It makes you even more hungry for knowledge, more eager to improve, more open to new ideas. Because here's the paradox. The people who are truly the best in their field are also the most committed to continuous learning. They know that the moment you think you've arrived, that's the moment you start declining. The world is changing rapidly. What worked yesterday might not work tomorrow. If you're not constantly learning and adapting, you're falling behind. When you act as if you're the best, you adopt what's called a growth mindset. This is the belief that your abilities and intelligence can be developed through dedication and hard work. With a growth mindset, challenges are opportunities to learn. Failures are valuable feedback. Criticism is information that can help you improve. Other people's success is inspiration. With a fixed mindset, challenges are threats. Failures prove you're not capable. Criticism feels like personal attacks. Other people's success makes you feel inadequate. When you act as if you're the best, you're committing to a growth mindset. You're saying, I'm excellent, and I'm becoming even more excellent. This learning mindset shows up in several specific ways. First, curiosity. People with a learning mindset are genuinely curious. They ask questions. They wonder why things work the way they do. When you act as if you're the best, you cultivate this curiosity. You don't assume you already know everything. You ask why, and how, and what if. Second, openness to feedback. People with a learning mindset actively seek out feedback. They want to know how they can improve. This doesn't mean accepting all feedback uncritically, but you're open to considering all feedback and extracting whatever value you can from it. When you act as if you're the best, you regularly ask for feedback. How can I improve? What could I have done better? Third, willingness to learn from anyone and everyone. People with a learning mindset don't limit themselves to learning from experts. They recognize that everyone knows something they don't. When you act as if you're the best, you approach every person with this openness. Fourth, embracing challenges. People with a learning mindset see challenges as opportunities to grow. They don't avoid difficult tasks. They lean into them. When you act as if you're the best, you seek out challenges. You take on projects that are a bit beyond your current skill level. Fifth, learning from failure. Every failure contains lessons. The question is, will you extract those lessons? When you act as if you're the best, you have a systematic approach to learning from failure. After a setback, you ask yourself, what went wrong? Why? What can I learn? What will I do differently next time? Sixth, continuous skill development. People with a learning mindset are always working on improving their skills. When you act as if you're the best, you dedicate regular time to learning and skill development. Maybe it's an hour a day. Maybe it's several hours a week. But it's consistent. Let's talk about deliberate practice. This is a specific type of practice designed to improve performance. It's not just doing something repeatedly. It's working on specific aspects with focused attention, immediate feedback, and systematic refinement. When you act as if you're the best, you practice deliberately. You identify your weaknesses and work on them specifically. Here's another aspect: staying current in your field. Things change. New research emerges. New techniques develop. If you're not staying current, you're becoming outdated. When you act as if you're the best, you make staying current a priority. You read industry publications. You attend conferences. You follow thought leaders. Let's discuss the importance of learning adjacent skills. Sometimes the most valuable learning comes from developing skills in related or even unrelated areas. When you act as if you're the best, you think broadly about what skills would make you more effective. You develop a diverse skill set. Here's something important. Learning requires humility. You have to be willing to admit what you don't know. You have to be willing to be a beginner again. When you act as if you're the best, you embrace this awkwardness. You're secure enough in what you do know that you can comfortably admit what you don't know. Let's talk about teaching as learning. One of the best ways to deepen your understanding is to teach it to someone else. When you act as if you're the best, you look for opportunities to teach and mentor others, not just because it benefits them, but because it deepens your own understanding. Here's a final thought. The learning mindset keeps you young. not physically, but mentally and emotionally. People who stop learning often become rigid. People who maintain a learning mindset stay flexible, curious, engaged. When you act as if you're the best, you commit to being a lifelong learner. You recognize that learning isn't something that ends when you finish school. It's a lifelong practice. The best are never satisfied with what they know. They're always hungry to know more. That hunger is what keeps them at the top. Stay hungry. Stay humble. Stay learning. That's how you stay the best. Here are some specific strategies for continuous learning that the best people use. First, the Feynman technique, named after physicist Richard Feynman. This involves explaining a concept in simple terms, as if teaching it to a child. If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. Second, spaced repetition. Instead of cramming information all at once, review it at increasing intervals. Review something after 1 day, then 3 days, then 1 week, then 1 month. This leverages how memory actually works and leads to long-term retention. Third, interleaving. Instead of studying one topic deeply before moving to another, alternate between different subjects. This forces your brain to constantly retrieve and apply different types of information, which strengthens learning. Fourth, learning in public. Share what you're learning on social media, in blog posts, or in conversations. This forces you to organize your thoughts and opens you up to feedback and discussion. Fifth, the 5-hour rule. Many successful people dedicate at least 5 hours per week to deliberate learning. That's roughly an hour per workday. Bill Gates reads 50 books a year. Warren Buffett spends 80% of his day reading. They understand that knowledge compounds. Here's a powerful mindset shift. Instead of thinking, I'm not smart enough, think, I haven't learned that yet. That simple word, yet, changes everything. It shifts from fixed to growth mindset. Another strategy, teach others. The best way to learn something deeply is to teach it. When you explain concepts to others, you're forced to organize your knowledge and identify gaps in your understanding. And here's something crucial. Learn from your mistakes, but also learn from your successes. When something goes well, analyze why. What did you do right? How can you repeat it? Too often, we only analyze failures. Remember, in a rapidly changing world, the ability to learn quickly is more valuable than what you already know. When you act as if you're the best, you're committing to outlearning everyone else. Chapter 15. Living Your Legacy. As we near the end of this journey, I want to talk about legacy. You might think, I'm just starting to act as if I'm the best. It's too early to think about legacy. But here's the truth. You're creating your legacy every single day, whether you're conscious of it or not. Every action you take, every interaction you have, every choice you make, it all adds up to the impact you have on the world. When you act as if you're the best, you're not just pursuing personal success. You're creating a ripple effect that extends far beyond yourself. You're influencing others. You're setting examples. You're creating value. Legacy isn't just about what you accomplish. It's about the impact you have on others. It's about how you make people feel. It's about what you inspire in them. Think about the people who have influenced your life. What made them memorable wasn't necessarily what they achieved. It was how they affected you. That's legacy, and you're creating it right now. When you act as if you're the best, you become more intentional about your legacy. You think about the mark you want to make. You consider the impact of your actions beyond their immediate effects. First, thinking about legacy means thinking beyond short-term gains. When you're thinking about legacy, you consider the long-term implications of your choices. You're willing to make sacrifices in the short term for the sake of long-term impact. You're playing the long game. Second, thinking about legacy means investing in others. Your legacy isn't just what you do. It's also what others do because of your influence. When you mentor someone, That's part of your legacy. When you create opportunities for others, that's part of your legacy. When you inspire someone to pursue their dreams, that's part of your legacy. When you act as if you're the best, you look for ways to lift others up. You share your knowledge. You create opportunities. You invest your time in helping others succeed. Third, thinking about legacy means living your values. What do you stand for? What principles guide your decisions? When you're clear about your values and you live by them consistently, even when it's difficult, that's when you create a meaningful legacy. People remember how you treated them. They remember how you responded when things went wrong. They remember whether you kept your word. When you act as if you're the best, you're impeccable with your integrity. You do the right thing even when no one is watching. Fourth, thinking about legacy means being conscious of your influence. Whether you realize it or not, people are watching you. What are they learning from watching you? Are they seeing someone who achieves success through integrity and hard work? Are they seeing someone who treats others with respect? You're always modeling something. Make sure it's something worth modeling. Fifth, thinking about legacy means creating value that lasts. What are you building that will continue to provide value after you're no longer actively involved? When you act as if you're the best, you think about sustainability. You create structures, systems, and capabilities that will continue to create value. Let's talk about generativity, which is about contributing to the well-being of future generations. It's about leaving the world better than you found it. When you act as if you're the best, you think beyond your own lifetime. You contribute to things that will benefit people you'll never meet. Here's something important. A meaningful legacy isn't reserved for famous people. Every single person creates a legacy through their daily actions. The parent who raises their children with love is creating a legacy. The teacher who inspires students is creating a legacy. The colleague who helps others succeed is creating a legacy. Legacy isn't about fame. It's about impact. When you act as if you're the best, you create a positive legacy regardless of your role or position. You do it through excellence in your work, through how you treat people, through the example you set. Let me ask you some reflection questions. When people think about you, what do you want them to remember? What impact do you want to have had? What values do you want to have stood for? These aren't easy questions, but they're important ones, and the answers should guide how you live today. When you act as if you're the best, you live with your legacy in mind. You make daily choices that align with the long-term impact you want to have. Here's the beautiful thing about focusing on legacy. It actually makes you more successful, not less. When you're focused on creating lasting value, on helping others, on living your values, success follows naturally. So focusing on legacy isn't separate from acting as if you're the best. It's part of it. It's what ensures that your excellence has meaning beyond just your own achievement. You're going to leave a legacy, whether you're intentional about it or not. The question is, what will that legacy be? When you act as if you're the best, you're consciously creating a legacy you can be proud of. That's the ultimate expression of acting as if you're the best, recognizing that your excellence isn't just for you. It's for everyone who benefits from your work, everyone who's inspired by your example, everyone whose life is better because you were in it. Live for that. Work for that. Be excellent for that. That's how you create a legacy that truly matters. Conclusion, your call to action. We've covered a lot of ground together. From mindset to habits, from confidence to humility, from focus to emotional intelligence, from resilience to legacy. All of these are aspects of what it means to truly act as if you are the best. But here's what I want you to understand. This isn't just information. This isn't just interesting ideas to think about. This is a call to action. This is an invitation to transform your life. Everything we've discussed is meaningless unless you actually do something with it. Unless you take these principles and apply them in your real life, starting today. So let me be direct with you. Are you going to do that? Are you going to start acting as if you are the best? Or are you going to go back to playing small? Because here's the truth. You have a choice. You can choose to embrace these principles and transform your life. Or you can choose to stay comfortable, to stay safe, to stay exactly where you are. But understand what you're choosing. If you choose to stay where you are, you're choosing to never know what you could have become. You're choosing to live with the regret of unfulfilled potential. Is that really what you want? I don't think it is. I think if you've listened this far, then some part of you knows that you're meant for more. Some part of you knows that you're capable of excellence. So act on that knowing. Don't let fear hold you back. Don't let doubt whisper lies in your ear. Don't let the opinions of others keep you playing small. Start today. Start right now. Act as if you are the best. What does that look like practically? Let me give you some specific actions you can take immediately. First, decide on one area where you're going to start acting as if you're the best. Don't try to transform everything at once. Pick one area and commit to it. Second, identify one specific habit you're going to change or implement. What's one thing the best people in your field do that you're not doing? Start doing it. Third, raise your standards in that area. What have you been accepting that you shouldn't accept anymore? Set that as your new standard. Fourth, take one bold action this week that demonstrates your commitment. Something that scares you a little. Something that's outside your comfort zone. Maybe it's speaking up in a meeting. Maybe it's starting that project you've been putting off. Maybe it's having that difficult conversation. Whatever it is, do it. Fifth, find someone to share this commitment with. Tell someone you trust that you're making this change. Ask them to support you and hold you accountable. These are concrete, actionable steps you can take right now. Will you take them? Or will you just think about taking them and then go back to your old patterns? The difference between people who transform their lives and people who just think about transforming their lives is action. So I'm challenging you. Take action. Start today. Act as if you are the best, and then back it up with your behavior. Here's what's going to happen when you do this. At first, it's going to feel uncomfortable. You're going to doubt yourself. You're going to hear that voice in your head saying, "Who do you think you are?" That's normal. That's your brain trying to keep you safe by keeping you comfortable. Push through it. Act anyway. And then something amazing is going to happen. You're going to start getting results. Small ones at first. You're going to notice that people respond to you differently. You're going to accomplish things you weren't accomplishing before. And those results are going to build your confidence. What started as acting is going to start becoming real. You're going to actually believe that you're the best. And as you believe it more deeply, you're going to become it more fully. This is the transformation from acting to being. This is how you become the best. But it starts with that first step. It starts with deciding, right now, that you're done playing small, that you're done settling, that you're done with excuses. It starts with you saying, "I am the best. No one is better than me. And I'm going to prove it through my actions, through my consistency, through my commitment to excellence." Say it, mean it, live it, because you are capable of so much more than you've been accepting. You have so much potential that you haven't tapped into. You can achieve things you've only dreamed about, but only if you act, only if you commit, only if you're willing to step into the discomfort of growth and stay there until it becomes your new normal. This is your moment. This is your opportunity. This is your invitation to become everything you're capable of being. Will you accept it? I believe you will. I believe that something brought you to this message at this time because you're ready. You're ready to stop playing small. You're ready to embrace your potential. You're ready to act as if you are the best. So do it. Starting now. Starting today. Act as if you are the best. Carry yourself with that confidence. Set those high standards. Take those bold actions. Persist through setbacks. Learn and grow continuously. Create a legacy you're proud of. This is your life. This is your one chance. Make it count. Be excellent. Be the best. The world needs what you have to offer. The world needs your excellence. Don't deprive the world of your potential by playing small. Act as if you are the best. Because when you do, when you really commit to it, you will be. The best version of you is waiting. It's time to become that person. Go. Act. Be the best. Subscribe to our channel. If this message resonated with you, if these principles inspired you to take action and transform your life, then I have one request. Subscribe to our channel and join our community of people committed to excellence. Why subscribe? Because this is just the beginning. We're constantly creating content designed to help you become the best version of yourself. More audiobooks on success, mindset, personal development, and excellence. By subscribing, you're joining a community of like-minded people who refuse to settle, who are committed to growth, who are acting as if they're the best. You're creating an environment that supports your transformation. And transformation isn't a one-time event. It's an ongoing process. You need consistent input, consistent inspiration, consistent reminders to stay on track. That's what this channel provides. So hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications so you never miss new content. And one more thing. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. We all know people who are capable of so much more than they're currently achieving. People who are playing small. People who need permission to step into their greatness. Share this message with them. It might be exactly what they need to hear at exactly the right time. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being someone who's committed to growth and excellence. Now go act as if you're the best. Because you are. See you in the next one.